Okay, welcome everybody to this afternoon's live stream. Nice to see so many familiar folks and some new ones as well. I see a stealth appearance by Ms. Fretboard herself. A bunch of folks from the membership, a bunch of folks not from the membership. So good to see everybody here. And thanks for showing up. Yes, that was a version of Trouble in Mind in the key of A. And today, just here to talk about and answer questions about the Fingerstyle 5 membership. If you play Fingerstyle blues guitar, if you play guitar at all, you know that even once you've figured out what it is you're going to work on, some of the hardest things about that are staying focused, continuing to move forward, just doing the things you need to do that you know you need to do to get better, that are really hard to do when your squirrel brain is just going all over the map, trying to think about different kinds of music, different things you might work on. You can even be in the middle of a really good practice routine and just something you hear that day or someone you talk to is just like, oh, just makes you think that everything you're doing is like a terrible idea. So number one problem for learning to play better is not knowing what to work on or how to work on it. And, we all get a certain amount of time. What is it, 168 hours a week? And out of that, we're trying to carve out some time to practice. So practice time is this very valuable asset, right? And so you don't want to waste it looking for the right lessons. You don't want to say, oh, there's the hour I spent it on the internet looking for tab. You don't want to spend it learning the wrong things, just things that you thought were going to help but turn out to have been kind of a big waste of time. Scales in all 12 keys. Or, just that sort of that dead end to end all dead ends, which is you sit down to practice and what you end up doing is you play the stuff that you already know because that's what you know and because you don't have a ton of time to play and you want to enjoy it, so you end up playing the things you know. And then, weeks go by and you're like, man, I haven't learned anything new. I'm still playing the same tunes. So what the Fingerstyle 5 itself is about is really, in a way, it's kind of how to practice. And let me just say that I started off with the best of intentions myself, but really did not learn how to practice for years and years and years. And ironically, the thing that helped me figure out how to practice the guitar was not practicing the guitar at all. I got obsessed in my early 20s with the idea of playing bluegrass dobro. And so that wasn't my thing that I was supposed to be doing. So I was like, okay, look, I can't spend a ton of time on this. I had this book called the Dobro Workbook. I took 2 lessons from an actual teacher, a fantastic musician named Bats Kaplan, who lived in New York. But he was like, get the Stacey Phillips book, the Dobro book. I was like, okay. So I got the book and I'm like, okay, I guess this is how I'm going to learn. And I gave myself a half an hour a day. That was it. Like I could fool around on it afterwards, or I could play other things or practice other things. But like I was only going to spend a half an hour a day on the dobro, like working. And even crazier, like inside of that half hour, I divided that half hour up into 3 little 10-minute units, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna spend the first 10 minutes just working on technique, because it was a whole new thing with like there's finger picks and you're holding the guitar the wrong way and there's the bar. So just 10 minutes a day, just getting notes, working with a metronome, playing scales in time, all the boring stuff I never did on the guitar. But I wanted, to get a good sound. I was just like fascinated with this instrument. And I was like, I just want to be able to get the notes to come out cleanly. And then the next 10 minutes I would spend on the fingerboard, because again, it was a whole new landscape because it's an open tuning. And I had never really learned the notes of the fingerboard on the guitar. And I thought, well, I'll try to do it right this time. So I would go up and down each string and I would name the names of the notes in whatever key I was in. And I would name intervals and I would just glacial pace, right? But I just really wanted to get this stuff into my head. And then the last 10 minutes were for repertoire. And I just basically worked through the book. So whatever song I was on that week, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn the next 4 bars of Maiden's Prayer, or whatever the tune was, the next 4 bars of Cluck Old Hen. And just, so I always had like one tune I was working on. And this way of sort of dividing things up with this very finite amount of time. So I think accidentally, in retrospect, I kind of stumbled across a very specific way to learn. And because I had no baggage attached to the dobro, right? I was starting as a complete beginner and nothing about like, well, I should be here by now, or, I should know all these things by now. I just was like, this is a clean slate. It's a new instrument. But so because of that clean slate, I was able to put together a way to practice that really worked. And to the point that I actually ended up playing my first gig in like, I don't know, 4 months or something. It wasn't great, right? But at one point I looked down and I was like, wait, it was like a Far Side cartoon, like when the elephant's at the piano. I was like, wait, what's going on? Why aren't we doing this? It worked. And I think I stumbled across these 3 things that really, really helped. One was it was an incredibly specific goal. It was the dobro, and it was bluegrass. It was bluegrass dobro. So it wasn't like Hawaiian music, and it wasn't the blues, and it wasn't swing, and all these other things you could do on the dobro, right? It was like bluegrass, the one thing, like these kinds of chord progressions, these kind of tempos, these kind of licks, and that's it. That's all I wanted to be able to do. And it was so clear in my head that I was able to stay focused on that. The second thing about it, after the focus, was isolating different aspects of what was involved. So I just worked on my right hand, just on my execution and playing in time. Divorced from any like specific song, just like scales and exercises and licks, just how do you do it? And then the fingerboard, just isolating that and just going up and down the neck and literally saying the names of the notes out loud with a metronome, just trying to get my brain up to speed, but just isolating that one piece of it. And then finally, the whole thing was a kind of reverse engineering. It was like, what do I have to do to stand on stage a year from now and play bluegrass with somebody? Let me work backwards from there. Okay, I need to be able to play in these keys, these kind of tunes, these kind of tempos, this kind of technique. So everything that I was working on, whenever I sat down, I couldn't wait to do it because I was like, man, the faster I get through this, the sooner I'll be able to do that thing that I can picture so clearly in my head. And so the Fingerstyle 5 is really just a version of that specificity to help you play better fingerstyle blues. From the outset, and this has been going now for 2 years, the goal has been to show you how to play solo instrumental fingerstyle blues. Now I realize that is an almost absurdly specific goal, right? And some of you might want to use this because you sing and you want to know how to like take a solo in between, no problem. Some of you might want to use this to play with other people, again, no problem. We're trying to isolate and just focus and get specific. The more specific a thing you try to cover, the better you can cover it. So it's about trying to play solo instrumental fingerstyle blues. And the way that we do that is by working on one song at a time and having just 3 steps to learning that song and having a step-by-step plan within each of those steps to get that done. So one song, we've been in this series just these past few days, we've been doing Nobody's Fault But Mine. So that might be the one song you work on at a time inside the Fingerstyle 5. And then, just like we did here over the last week, you work on groove for the first week, just putting your thumb and fingers together, getting everything synced up, making sure that you've got that foundation, right? Because if it's not in time, it's not going to sound great. Simple things sound great when they're played with good time, when you're locked into the time, when you know the thumb is keeping time, when you know your fingers are where they need to be for this pinch and that syncopation. So it's so important to lay that foundation. So we do that at the beginning. Then once you have good time and once you've learned the tune, then you can look at how to improvise and start building a vocabulary of licks. And having specific examples of solos to work on can give you a context for that, and you can start to build your vocabulary and sort of get these building blocks together. And finally, working on putting the whole tune together. And again, step by step, getting building blocks, an intro, a fundamental version, a solo section, a shout chorus. So if you've been following along with these 3 lessons, that's like a really compressed version of a month in the membership. So we've done in 6 days what we would do over the course of a month. So if it felt like a lot of work, and like, man, how do these people do this? Well, nobody does it in 6 days. I mean, well, there's like 1 or 2 people, but you know, we look at their posts online and go, that was amazing. How'd you do that so fast? And then we just get back to work. So what I want to do right now, though, is give you a more detailed walkthrough. I've got some screenshots and some different things to show you. I want you to see what it really looks like, you know, inside the membership, what the lessons look like, you know, just what, you know, just get a feel for what it would be like to sign up and do this. And there are a bunch of folks here, I noticed in the chat, talking up what's going on for them. There are some members already on here. So, you know, if you've got questions, I will be answering questions later on in the stream, but you can also post them to some actual members, not paid actors, who stopped by the forum. I cannot seem to keep them away. So let's see if I can do this little technology shenanigans here and get to where you can see what's going on. Good-oink. There we go. It worked on the first try. That's a good sign. Okay, so here's what happens. So you've got these 3 pillars that make up the membership. There's the monthly song. Of course, there's a new one every month. So there's the monthly song that you work on. There's the archive, which is the collection of all the past songs, right? So let's say you get to the end of the month and you're like, dang it, I didn't get as far as I wanted to get. Well, it goes in the archive. It stays in the membership. Everything all the way back to the beginning of 2019. So 2 years worth of stuff is accessible for you to go through. So not just the monthly song, but the archive of every other song that we've done, and everything. As the months go on, you can keep going back and referring to the stuff that you've seen before. And third, there's a forum, a community forum. It's not a Facebook group. It's private. It's inside. You have to log in to get to it. So it's just people that are doing the membership. And that's so that as you work through the month's material, you can talk with other people about the song. You know, you can say like, oh, hey, you know, is anybody having trouble with that stupid F chord that Dave keeps putting into these arrangements? Or, you know, what about, you know, wasn't there another song we did in this key? Can anybody remind me where that is in the archive? And also you can post your work in progress. So what some people like to do, it's kind of like, you know, when you do like a fitness program, like before and after, like some people near the beginning of the month will go, okay, I'm playing the fundamental and it's still got a lot of mistakes, but I'm going to post it here so that I can come back later and, you know, and post a better version of it. Or, you know, sometimes it'll, three months will have gone by and someone's like, hey, remember when we were doing, you know, Motherless Child? I finally got my arrangement together. I'm going to post it. Here it is. It's a very supportive community. It's very cool. But I'm going to go through these 3 pillars one by one. But this is the big picture: monthly song, archive, and forum. Very simple, very easy to sort of just wrap your head around. And that's not what I meant to do. Okay, that's what I meant to do. So for the monthly song, as I was just saying, there are 3 elements, and they come in weekly installments. The first week, when you get the new song to work on, you get the groove exercises, the horizontal 3-step and all that stuff. The second week, you get the improvisation material, and the third week, the arranging material. And when I say get, I mean I conduct a live stream like this. And there's a PDF with about 25 pages of notation and tab every month, and that gets posted week by week. And when it gets posted, I do a live stream, walk everybody through the material, take questions, you know, play the examples, and just explain what's going on. So you get really an in-depth lesson every week, which is archived and available for replay. If you can't be at the live stream, you can submit a question ahead of time. Okay, so let's talk about the monthly song. And so each month, something new to work on. Usually these tunes come from one of 2 places. They're either arrangements of traditional blues material. So like you'll see, like we just did Crow Black Chicken, and that was kind of a combination of some of the Ry Cooder moves and then some of the more old-timey elements of the song from, you know, back when it was first recorded in the 20s. The Bad Livers version kind of made a cameo. But I'll make an arrangement of the tune Or if there's a specific key or a specific groove that I want to make sure that we cover, sometimes I'll write an original blues. And if you have any of my TrueFire stuff, or you've seen like New School Fingerstyle Blues or Fingerstyle Factory, you know kind of what that stuff sounds like. And these are tunes that are not available anywhere else. Like they haven't gone into like articles in magazines. They haven't been done on TrueFire, right? I write them exclusively for the membership, and that's the only place you can really get them. And I try to keep a good mix of traditional and original material. So all this stuff goes into the lesson archive. So not just the song, which includes both the fundamental and the embellished version, and those versions played slowly and up to tempo, but also all the live streams, all the improvisation lessons, all the arranging lessons, any Q&As that I've done that month. All of that goes into the archive and is available for replay. So, for example, like if you go look at when you go to the main page, when you log in, you'll see like right now we're doing an original tune called Minor Details, which is an 8-bar A minor blues. Before that, we did Crow Black Chicken. In August, we did CC Rider. We did it in the key of E with a steady bass. Before that, we did something kind of special. So it's a monthly song, but every 5 or 6 months, there's this general sense of people crying uncle. Like it's a lot of material and they're like, I need some time to catch up. So when that happens once, maybe twice a year, I'll replace the monthly song with a workshop. Now this was kind of a special thing because I had done this chord substitutions workshop outside of the membership. Fretboard Confidential does Fingerstyle 5 membership, but also does a monthly Saturday morning workshop. And the workshops are separate from the membership, a separate price and just a different thing. But this chord substitutions workshop was something that a lot of people were interested in. So as a special bonus, I restreamed the exact same, actually I updated it. I added more content and made a special membership version of that workshop. And that ended up in the archive as well. So that's what we did in July instead of having a song. So the community forum, again, it's a members only login kind of forum, and it deals specifically with the material that we're dealing with. And not, usually the current month, but also people will reach back and talk about other stuff as well. You can ask questions in the forum. I do my best to get in there and answer those questions. More and more, before I can even get to them, someone else has gone ahead and answered them. There's some really active community members. 9 times out of 10, there's a member named Ricky who will get in there and answer the questions before I can about the logistical stuff. And some of the guys here too, Bill and Guido, I'm going to miss some names here, but there's Anton. There's a bunch of folks here who've been with the program a while and they know more about it than I do as far as where stuff is. So the forum's great. And here's an example of, here's another one of our students, Rafal. He's from Czechoslovakia. And he was posting this is his post of Minor Details, the current song, the fundamental version, work in progress. And so someone's already commented and, people have just left some feedback. And when I get in there, I try to, be encouraging, but also sort of earn my keep by saying like, hey, watch out for the time, or, did you mean to play that E7 chord there like you did? Mostly just so people know that I actually listened to the whole thing and, that I'm really paying attention. Because if I just say, yeah, go team, I feel like I try to, at least present some kind of perspective on what's going on. People know what they need to work on. So I don't, I feel like my job is to be encouraging mostly, but I also try to give specific feedback when I can. So let's talk about what a month looks like. You start in week 1 with the tune itself. So you'll see a fundamental version, which is the simplest reduction of just bass and fingers. The idea of the fundamental is to give more beginning players something satisfying to play. My goal with the fundamental tune is that if all you learn is the fundamental tune, it should still sound like music. It shouldn't sound like this watered down beginner thing. So I try to make it, I try to pick tunes and put those tunes in keys where you can play the fundamental version and it doesn't feel like a compromise. So it should, I want it to feel like a real piece of music. At the same time, I wanted to provide the bones for doing the embellished version. The embellished version is more like the intermediate version of the tune. And so it'll usually have, more double stops instead of just a single note melody. It'll have chord substitutions. It'll have maybe a bit of a walking bass line, or something more syncopated in the melody. It's like the fancy version. But the great thing is that you can then play the fundamental and the embellished back to back, and the embellished automatically makes for the way the second time through a melody, you want it to sound more hip and like it's developed. So the fundamental stands on its own, the embellished stands on its own, but put together they make up a good part of the arrangement if that's how you want to do it. I also include a vamp in the first week. A vamp is like a short repeating figure you can use as an intro or as kind of a landing point between solos. And so if you're really, you get comfortable quickly with the embellished version and you want to start doing, something more with it, you can start working on building your arrangement by learning the vamp in the first week too. So I really try, even in that first week, that's very emblematic of what's going on here. You can learn just the fundamental version. You can learn just the embellished version. You can learn the fundamental, the embellished, and start working on the vamp and be almost halfway through working on your arrangement. And any of those choices is cool. It is really up to you and your level and what you feel comfortable with. So you should really feel like you can take it at whatever level's good for you. And lots of people who start off just doing the fundamental, like there's a guy, Bruce, who's been here since the beginning for 2 years. And, he wrote in a few weeks ago, he was like, when I started, I felt lucky to get through the fundamental version by the end of the month. And now I find that I can pretty much put it together in the first week or the week and a half and then get on to the embellished version, and I'm even starting to do some improvising. So it's a slow burn, right? I mean, my goal is to make sure there's enough material for you to go as far as you want to in the month. I never want someone to feel like they're sitting around waiting for stuff, right? But I also want to make sure there's a point of entry where, if you learn the fundamental, you can learn it, you can wrap your hands around it, and it still sounds good. So the other thing that happens in the first week is that I always take the song through the horizontal 3-step. And this is a process I talked about in last Tuesday's video, last Thursday, the first video in this series. And this is a way of, again, isolating. Really important idea around here. So isolate the bass. So if you've got a steady bass tune, just work on the bass and figure out what the thumb is doing and just make sure you can play that. Don't get hung up in I got to put this finger with that finger and whatever until you've got the thumb, right? Because what's really happening when you play fingerstyle is it's two horizontal things, hence a horizontal 3-step. It's a bass line and it's a melody. And all this business is just to get those two things to unfold over time. So you want to make sure you really understand what the bass line's doing. You want to make sure you really understand the flow and the phrasing of the melody. So you isolate the bass, then you isolate the melody and just work on that. Then you work on putting it together. And if this is where things get tricky for you, here's the version with the entire count written out, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and every 8th note marked, and every pinch is illustrated. So you can see where are you playing thumb and fingers, where are you playing the bass alone, where are you playing a syncopated melody. This makes it much easier to see what the melody is doing against the bass, because the bass is your clock telling you where time is, and the fingers are going to work off of that and give you all the syncopations and do everything that makes the melody swing. So for each tune, you get a chance to work through this and build that sense of groove, build that solid time, build that confidence in the way that you play. So that's week 1. Next, improvisation comes in the second week. And so here, again, improvisation may be the fuzziest of all the things that you try to do playing music, right? It just feels like when you see people do it, it looks invisible, it looks magic, very, how does it happen? So the goal here is to break it down into a series of learnable steps, right? Just things you can actually work on one after the other. So we start with the 5 resolutions. And these are, resolutions means the way that the notes resolve into the next bar. It's basically phrasing, the way the rhythms of your melody sound. So we do 5 specific resolutions: short resolution, long resolution, delayed resolution, echo resolution, and there's one that didn't make it on the page. about the internal resolution. But so the idea is just to go, what are the most common ways that people play blues licks, right? There are these 5 phrases, There's a short resolution. There's a long resolution, right? So the idea is just how can we quantify this stuff and make it something we can get in our heads and our hands and make it super specific, right? So we do that. Then we look at some scale choices. So this looks really horrendous, but it's just so that you start to know what the intervals are in the scale. If you're playing an A, oh, here's the root. Excellent. Here's the flat 7, and here's the 5th. So I try not to do a whole lot of like, put your finger here, put your finger there, but talk more about intervals and how they relate to the chord. So you can start to, understand like, why does that sound good? And how come that's the same thing right down there? And when I'm playing that note, why does it sound good to land there and then resolve it here? So just looking at the scales in a really compact way. I don't really deal with scales a lot. It's just putting the material out there because what really matters is how you phrase the scale, right? It's not the notes themselves. Anybody can run a scale up and down. It's the phrasing. It's the way you put those notes together, which is why we'll then look at some sample solos. So in this first 4 bars, hopefully I'll play it accurately in the actual lesson, but it's there's the first 4 bars of a solo over a tune in A minor, but I've also marked out, you can look at, well, here's a short resolution. Here's a delayed resolution. Oh, now here we're going to have a long resolution. And another long resolution. So you're not just learning the notes, you're learning how to phrase them, and you're learning why you would play them the way that you do. Looking at solos and breaking them down is one of the best ways to get a sense of what happens in the real world and go, oh, that's why we're doing this. And then once you've learned a couple of solos, now you've got a context. So instead of just learning a bunch of licks, you're like, oh, this is a lick that works over these chords. Well, if I can play this and then keep going like this, in this solo, this is the 3rd chorus that's been written out, and here's the 5th chorus, the 5th solo. Well, now we can go from here, and then we can kind of jump down here and make that happen. And so you start to see, oops, not yet. You start to see how you can break these things apart. So I would never want to just give like some pre-written solos and go, here, learn these. These are the solos, right? That's not the point. The point of the solos is to serve as examples, which you can then take apart and recombine and put them together. So again, it's a step-by-step process. It's never just a vague, well, you just kind of figure it out. It's literally like, here are the steps to get better at this. So week 3, then we get into arranging, because the goal here is to be able to play tunes, right? Be able to play whole songs. That's the point of all of this. Remember the reverse engineering thing. It's like the idea is to have a repertoire, to be able to sit down and play a half dozen or a dozen instrumental blues tunes, that you could do, and they would last for 2 or 3 minutes and sound like songs. So again, inside of the arranging week, there's a bit of a plan. It's called the 7-step arc, and it works like this. The idea is to create a sense of structure and narrative so that the song starts and it builds and it peaks and it concludes. And there are, again, concrete ways to do it. So start with an intro or a vamp, and we already had some vamps, but so in this week, I'll also provide a few extra ones. So you're not just stuck with the one vamp. Anytime you have 2 or 3 examples of something, you can start to triangulate, excuse me, and figure out what it is that those things have in common and what sets them apart from each other. That way, you're not at the mercy of just memorizing the stuff that I show you. You are sort of getting to see how it's done and start figuring out how you're going to do it too. So from there, you can go into the fundamental version and then the embellished version, and then take a solo, right? Because we've just worked on improvising. So you put in a solo, then a shout chorus, which is like more of a chordal rhythmic thing. progression is. Then back to the vamp. And then, at the end, you could hit the vamp and then the embellished version of the melody or vice versa. And again, these are just suggested building blocks. You can, of course, shuffle and structure them however you want, like a bunch of Legos. But the idea is to give you a point of departure so you have some idea what to do. So, as I mentioned, some months, maybe once or twice a year, we pause the song, the flow of the songs, and do a special topic or two or a workshop. So in the past, we've done accompaniment. A lot of times, these are like things that people have brought up in the forum and said, hey, are you going to do a lesson on this? And I'm like, well, that's not really like central to the mission, right? Like accompaniment, that's if you want to sing and know what to play along with it. Well, the focus is on building your instrumental vocabulary, but a lot of people, it turns out, also want to use this stuff, to enhance the way they play songs with words. So I was like, cool, let's take a couple of songs. I think in this one we did Careless Love and St. James Infirmary. And we looked at how to do accompaniment and like take the melody out of the guitar and leave space for the vocal. So we did that. And then we did something on chord substitutions, because this always comes up whenever we do blues in E or A. I always try to include some of that kind of thing. And then what happens is there are a lot of questions about, oh, how does that tritone substitution work? Oh, why is that a 7#9 chord? Oh, what are those Freddie Green voicings that you're using? And so I was like, let's just like do a whole thing on chord substitutions. So we did. And then we actually did one that was just on Freddie Green voicings, because that was super popular too. So I try to find a place to talk about these things when it's clear that it's something that people want to know about. So let's just take a quick look at the archive. I think by now you kind of get the idea. This is where all the material goes at the end of the month, and it goes back all the way to the beginning, so you have access to anything we've done. So, if you joined at the very beginning, you got one song. Right now, you get like 50 hours of material along with whatever you're doing right now. So here's just another example of like going back a ways. This was going back to last January. We did Midnight Special, Alternating Thumb in the key of C. We did a tune of mine called Jackson's Cadillac, which was a blues, and then it had like some cool jazz changes built into it. Motherless Child, another sort of traditional blues tune, and then Staggerly, which is, the John Hurt version's a really well-known version. Well, we did it with the Alternating Thumb, but we did it in drop D, which is kind of different from the John Hurt. I do not, there are plenty of places you can go to learn note-for-note versions of the pre-war classics. You want to learn how to play just like John Hurt or just like Gary Davis or just like Robert Johnson. There are far better resources than me. If that's what your jam is, I will freely say, like, go get it. Like, go to Tom Feldman, go to Homespun. That stuff's out there. This really isn't that. But, it is a way to develop a repertoire on the basis of those kinds of songs. It's just not like a super transcription or note-for-note oriented way of doing it, because we want to learn to build our own arrangements, do some improvising, all that kind of stuff. So here's a really important point. This is designed to be done at your own pace. I know a lot of people look at the material and go like, oh, it's a song a month, I can't keep up. That's really not what it's about. It doesn't matter how much of the material you get through. Really, it was one of my goals at the beginning to keep the price low so you could feel comfortable getting in and staying in and working at whatever pace you could do. I mean, I know that, there was a composition website that I spent a lot of time on. And when they went from a individual course model to a membership model, I was really excited until I found out it was going to be $50 a month. And I was like, some months I have time to work on this, some months I don't. I don't think I can pay the freight. So I've tried to keep it, the price for this down so you can feel like there's not pressure, right? It's a place to come and spend time with your guitar. Should be fun to do. But if you work on just the fundamental 1 month and then, you do spend some time on the improvising the next month, or it takes time to get up to there, it takes you months to get up to speed to where you're doing improvisation. What you're really doing is building a practice habit and getting the tools to work consciously and concretely on your playing. And that has nothing to do with how many songs you got done. That has everything to do with learning these ideas of like reverse engineering your goals as a musician and isolating the things that you want to work on and getting specific about what it is you're trying to do. That's the real purpose. The tunes and everything else are just an excuse. They're something to chew on while you work on becoming a better musician. So you can't fall behind, right? I mean, because every month is also self-contained. So, if you get halfway through the month and your life blows up, like, you're like, oh man, I've got like this crazy month at work, or, oh, I have this band with my friends and like we've got a gig and I've got to spend the next 3 weeks, practicing my metal chops, whatever it is. At the start of the next month, there's a new song. And even though we work on the songs the same way every month, it's not like you have to have done the last song. It's not like, well, now that we've done this song, we will now be able to do this. No, every month is self-contained. So wherever you are at the top of the month, you can jump back in, start with a new song. It's not like you've missed the ability to work on it. Every month, the song starts with, there's a fundamental, there's an embellished, there's a vamp. You can always start at the ground floor and work your way up. So there's no way to fall behind. The streams. A lot of the material is now delivered like this as a live stream. First, second, and third week of the month. And there is no perfect time because there are people doing this from all over the world. So I had to just pick an arbitrary time so that at least everybody knew when it was and it was predictable instead of moving it around all the time. So it's typically Thursdays at 2:30 Central, just like this. But I know that people have work, people have lives, sometimes it's the middle of the night in Australia or wherever you are. So it is live streamed, but two things about that. One is that the live streams are immediately archived, so you can get to them whenever you want to. As soon as they've gone on, you can watch them. Again, they're archived and you can see them, but the replay is available right away. And if you can't be at the live stream to ask a question, I always post a call for questions in the forum ahead of time. So you can post your question and I'll keep a little running list of them and get to as many of them as I can during the live stream so that you can still have that interaction. And you can also always go to the forum and ask questions there. And every lesson comes with an extensive PDF with notation and tabs. So like if you downloaded the PDF for this free series, that's basically what comes out every month. There's a 20 to 30 page PDF that includes notation and tab for the fundamental and the embellished and the vamp and all of the sample solos, all of the arranging examples. So you'll see stuff going on. Hey, Australia, great. So you'll see stuff going on screen and you'll be able to go look at a reference for it, right? So it won't just be like a bunch of, at times I'll think of other things or answer a question and place something that I haven't been able to tab out ahead of time. But the vast majority of the material, you'll have that, be able to do that cross-reference where if you see it on screen and it went by too quickly or you didn't get it, there's tab, there's a visual resource to go to. So each month, one of these booklets, these are just some sample covers. So to recap, 3 pillars: the monthly song, the archive, and the forum. Those are the 3 things that the whole thing is built on. And within each song, you're going to work on groove and improvisation and arranging. That is the scoop. So, that's what the membership looks like. And here are the nuts and bolts. It's $20 a month, and there is no annual commitment. There isn't even an annual option. Like you can't pay for a year, and you're not locked in. Basically, if you get midway through a month and you're like, man, this is not for me, I've done this for a few months, it's not happening, you can just cancel, and then at the end of the month, like you'll be out. You have access to all of the content as long as you're a subscriber. Just a caveat: the only thing you can take away with you is the PDFs and whatever's locked in your brain at that point, because it's streaming, it's not downloaded material, which is the only way that I can really make it work. But while you're subscribing, anything in the membership, you have access to that. So that includes the monthly songs, the archive, all of the live streams, plus also 3 other things I haven't even mentioned. One is that there's a core content section. So when you first join, you'll get an email suggesting that you check out the core content. And that is the 5 things that the Fingerstyle 5 takes its name from, which are groove, chord voicings, repertoire, improvisation, and arranging. So there's just a series of videos, kind of they're like orientation videos. It's like, here's how we think about groove around here. And this is alternating thumb and steady bass, and this is syncopation, and these are the things we're going to be talking about. Chord voicings. Here's how to think about, chords up the neck, chords in open position, the way that fingerstyle players use chords as opposed to when you're using a pick, like all the kind of like inside baseball you need to understand what's going on. And then as far as repertoire, what kind of blues tunes are we talking about? What should you be listening to? Where are we getting these ideas from, and how can this help you build your repertoire? And then improvisation and arranging, a lot of the stuff we've already talked about. But you can go there and really get set up. Also, the special topics and the workshops, those are also included in the whole membership. And then also, a lot of people ask me if you need to know theory to do this. And someone just mentioned that. Lovat, nice. So yeah, you don't have to know theory, but I tend to describe things in terms that I guess are kind of theory, like, oh, this is a third and this is a seventh, and we're playing a dominant chord right now, or whatever it is. So if you're the kind of person who likes to know what that is, and if you feel like that's going to enhance your ability to learn what's going on, then there is an entire intro to theory, and it starts literally at the beginning with half steps, whole steps, frets, just the basics. Takes you all the way up to understanding what major and minor chords are, what seventh chords are, and a little bit about what the modes and major scales are. So that's another additional resource, just so that if you want to understand more about that, it is there waiting for you. And of course, theory topics come up all the time in the live streams, and I'll explain things there as well, as on a kind of case-by-case basis. So one more thing about the archive is that these lessons, not this one because this isn't really a lesson, but the past 3 lessons on groove, improvisation, and arranging, those lessons, I did them as public YouTube lessons. They will stay up through the end of this, through the end of the next 5 or 6 days, through next Tuesday, through the end of this promotion. And then they will go into the archive as well. So all the past, anytime I've done like, a round of promotion to introduce people to the membership, those videos also get archived. So if you really want to watch more of those particular lessons, those will be in the membership as well. So if you join, you'll be able to keep watching those. If you don't, they're going to go poof in a little while. The other thing about this, basically that's the end of next Tuesday night. So over the next 6 days, registration is going to be, registration is open, but what's important about the registration right now is that these 6 days are the last time that you can guaranteed sign up at $20 a month. After that, the price is going to go up somehow, somewhat. But if you're already a member, or if you become a member over the next 6 days, your price will stay the same as long as you stay continuously subscribed. So if you already subscribed, nothing's going to happen to your pricing. And if you subscribe between now and next Tuesday night, your price will stay at $20 a month. After that, if you leave and then rejoin, you might not be able to rejoin at the same price. But if you stay in, your price will stay at $20. So that is my show. That is what I have to say. I see there's been a zillion questions, and I haven't gotten to look at any of them. So I'm going to look at that now, and I will also try to answer any other questions that you have before just running over just a couple other things that you might want to know. So let me just take a look here and see if there's anything else. Okay, couple of, good, thank you, Glenn. This is a softball. Is that a 00 or a 000? It is a 00. It's a 0018 from 1956. Yes, Brian says, anything under 90 for Texas. Yeah, it's like 70s and windy out. I feel like I'm in a Winnie the Pooh story. It's amazing. I can hear it. I've got the door shut, and I can hear it all, even still hear it. Okay, yeah, opened with trouble in mind. Yes, I am wearing a new shirt. Oh, nice to see you, Anton. Let's see. I could have sworn there were some questions in here. Now, Bill Z, don't be making overrated claims. I'll get sued. Let's see. I could have sworn there were some actual questions. It's nice to see everybody chatting. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, here's some. Oh, good. Just seeing some comments about people who've actually. So check out the comments because people are talking about the membership and how it's been going for them. So that's, yeah. So here's an example. So Jim says, I'm perfectly happy with getting just the fundamental down in a month. Can always go back to the lesson later. Yeah. From James, this program has completely changed my approach to acoustic guitar. I now have a systematic approach to learning material. I can also use these concepts in other material to develop repertoire material. Great. Love it. From Glenn, yeah, no pressure. Good. Also getting the improv thing down. Glad to hear it. Oh, a question about the capo. Yeah, capo, I don't actually bother teaching the capo because I don't feel like I need a capo unless I'm singing, right? Unless it's like for some sort of special effect, like, if I was going to play Here Comes the Sun. But yeah, I'm totally down with the capo. Question about YouTube. The posts disappear after a while. Is there any way to maintain access if you're a member? I know you've done a 3-part series and you said you would pull them soon. Yeah, so it's not been as well organized in the past. But the basic idea is whenever I do one of these sort of semi-annual series of lessons, they do end up in the membership. So if you were watching some of the previous ones from last spring or last fall, you'll find them in the membership now. And if you don't, holler, because it just means I forgot to load one of them in. From James, I also use this in my writing. Oh, that's cool. I have song ideas that would have been impossible to build without the voicing and ideas I learned here. That is really nice to know. From Guido, great. The videos of the membership are all still there, even the very old ones with atrocious audio. Yeah, there were some live streams at the beginning. Not cool. It was before the world learned how to use Zoom and before I learned how to use Zoom. And now I don't use Zoom at all, but I think it's gotten better. Okay, let's see. Yeah, nothing really disappears inside the membership. Yeah, the YouTube stuff, most stuff stays on YouTube. The only thing that doesn't always stay up on YouTube are the longer live streams. Those sometimes disappear. I would buy Fingerstyle 5 merchandise, hands down. Maybe a t-shirt with David sipping on his coffee cup. Oh, there you go. Baseball caps. Straw hats. Good idea. Oh, yeah. I could sample my foot tapping on the floor and make that a metronome download. Okay. Let's see. Question from Willem. Is this talking about a course? I think someone already answered this, but it's a membership. So it's a monthly subscription, and you get, so it's basically an ongoing course. So you pay your monthly fee, and you have access to this ongoing supply of stuff to work on. Let's see. Are there links after the stream? Oh, well, I guess I should have, marketing, baby. I should have put this in. So here's the link. Now I'm going to be all scary and close up, but you just go to my website, newly updated for the occasion. That link should get you to the page where you can find all the registration information. Oh my gosh, someone's up at 6:15 in Queensland, Australia. Nice. A fan of the PDF. The PDFs have gotten better and full of info. Oh, good. Yeah, I tried to sort of up that game a little bit. I'm going to vote for the core content. Okay. Here's a comment from Jazz the Dog 1. Is this for someone who still hasn't gotten his thumb and finger independence down yet? More advanced type of player? I'll let some other students weigh in on that, but I think that you can start. Again, it's about coming in at your own level. If you start and work through a few fundamental tunes and you really apply that horizontal 3-step to them, the whole point is to get you leveled up where you have a reliable thumb. I mean, on some level, the only way to get good at it is to work on it. And I do believe that these fundamental tunes give you enough of a challenge without making it so hard that you're going to give up. I'll defer to other folks' questions about that, other folks' observations about that who are already doing it. But it sounds like there are some folks who have been, oh, here's one from Bill. I learned alternating thumb here. So yeah, there you go. And let's see. Any instructions on slide playing? Okay. So actually, we did a special topic on slide and standard tuning. I forgot to mention that earlier. Slide is not, again, so slide, like accompaniment, like a couple of other things, are not part of the central mission, right? Because there's like a bell-shaped curve. Like there's whatever the majority of people are into, and then there's the people over on the sides. So slide is definitely one of those things over here or over here. There isn't enough demand for slide to make a full month out of it. So it will show up. It showed up once in a special topic. It might show up again, but it's not a central focus of the membership. Even though I'm sure there's people here that are interested in it, because I do get asked about it from time to time. But I don't want to make a whole month out of it where that's something that would leave a lot of people in the dust. So it might come up again in a special topic, but it's not a central thing. That said, you get this steady base together and you'll find learning to play slide a whole lot easier. Let's see. Oh man, it's already, well, I'm gonna pivot from questions here in just a minute, but I'll try to get to a couple more of these comments. From Tony, how could membership in the Fingerstyle 5 complement learning with etudes in those courses? For example, the vamp from your TrueFire Essentials course. Oh, excellent question. Okay, because I get this one a lot too. I know a lot of people who find me here on YouTube are coming from TrueFire courses and will say like, oh, well, I already have like tons of stuff to work on in the TrueFire courses. All that I'll say is that the TrueFire courses, I'm really proud of those, and I love the work that TrueFire does, and they're some of my favorite people in the music biz. They do great work, and I stand behind those TrueFire courses. In fact, if you want to learn slide, you could probably learn more about slide from my TrueFire stuff than you would here. But the TrueFire stuff basically is sink or swim, because I'm not on TrueFire as a sort of ongoing instructor like some people are. So you can buy my TrueFire courses and you can work on those tunes, but there's no support for them from me. And there's not the same kind of detail. Like you can buy those courses and learn those tunes, and a couple of them, like the Fingerstyle Factory, is kind of like a mix and match kind of thing. But I do think that this is the place to come to complement those etudes, because here I can cover some traditional material as well as original blues tunes, and can give you more of a process for building up to a complete 2 to 3 minute song. Most of the TrueFire stuff, except for the new school fingerstyle blues, which is like these very extended compositions, most of the other etudes are short. They're like 12 bars, 24 bars max, right? So you can play them, but it doesn't really give you a way to build them into complete songs. So even if you're working on the TrueFire stuff, and thank you, I appreciate your patronage, I think that this offers more of an opportunity for like an ongoing learning experience and developing like these sort of permanent skills that will help you develop your musicianship on your own. Okay, so yeah, those are those good questions, and again, take advantage of the fact that there are some folks in here right now in this chat who who are actually actively doing the membership and what they have to say about it. And if you're watching on replay, make sure you scroll through the chat because there's a lot of discussion about the things you might be wondering about yourself. Okay, so yeah, just from seeing these comments, I think the thing that I want to say about this is that, I know that it works because I've now gotten to see 2 years worth of people work on these lessons and learn to play, and seeing the posts in the forum and seeing the improvement and seeing comments like you can see right here about people learning to play steady bass, learning to play alternating thumb inside the membership, learning to go from non-improvising to being able to improvise, being able to do their own songwriting, create their own arrangements. So it actually, it will help you get where you want to go if you put in the time. So if you want to sign up is now open. So if you go to the link that I posted, I'll post it again when we're done. Fretboardconfidential.com. There's more details about the membership. You can scroll down. There's sign up on the home page. You can use PayPal. You can use Stripe. It's secure. And as soon as you sign up, you'll get a couple of welcome emails. One just telling you that, with your receipt telling you your payment's gone through, and one giving you your login and suggesting that you go and check out the core content. And then, the question that comes up a lot is, well, I joined, what should I do? And it's, well, do the core content and then look at the monthly song. Now, since we're just finishing up a month right now, maybe you want to start next Thursday. We'll actually be doing, spoiler alert, we'll be doing Trouble in Mind in A, which is something that I think I provided the tab for in the core content, but we've never gone through and given it the full monthly treatment. So we're going to do Trouble in Mind in A and take it through all the paces in November. A couple other things coming up, because I know people like to know, over the next 4 to 5 months, 6 months, we'll also be doing a version of I Shall Not Be Moved, which is a tune that a lot of people do it. John Hurt is the guitar player, most people know it, but there's also my arrangement for this was inspired by a really great version by the Boston guitar player Paul Rochelle. And then hopefully we're going to do, haven't figured out if this is how well this will work, but I'm hoping to present a Skip James tune sometime in the early spring. And then we'll do a couple of instrumentals too of mine. There's a couple of new original blues etudes, blues tunes, whatever you want to call them, in different keys. So go sign up. Again, just sort of think about where your playing's at. Think about your own level of sort of how clear are you on what you want to work on. If you know that fingerstyle is your thing and that's something that you want to work on, even if that's not the only thing, if that's something you'd like to focus on for a while and really get good at, this can help you stop wasting your time, all that time it takes like rounding up the right lessons, working on one lesson, looking for the next one, trying to figure out if there's more of that, trying to figure out what tunes to work on, and just provide a little bit of structure so when you're sitting down to practice, I'm going to work on this. I'm not going to work on that. This is my path, at least for the time being. Not in a rigid way, just in a kind of oh great, I know what I'm going to work on and I don't have to stress over what I'm going to be doing. And hopefully, these tools are just designed to help you. Anybody who feels stuck playing the same things and stuck with a certain repertoire, the whole idea is to help you move forward and, basically to help you get better by knowing what to work on and knowing how to work on it. So, how do I put this? Just the more you can take the guesswork out of learning and practicing, the more satisfying it's going to be. And hopefully you can, take these tools and use them over the weeks and months and learn to play fingerstyle blues with more confidence, more control, and ultimately with more creativity. That is really the jam. It's what can you do in an organized, linear way to get to the point where you're playing guitar the way you want to play guitar. So go sign up if you want to, fretboardconfidential.com. anytime now until Tuesday night. You can get access right away. You can lock in at $20 a month, and you can join a really cool community of hundreds of people working on learning how to play this kind of music. So I'm gonna go out with a little more music. Feel free to leave posts or questions. If there's still questions after I've played, I'll stick around and answer them. But it looks like for the time being, we kind of got it covered. So thank you very much for being here. If you've got questions in the meantime, drop me a line through the website or in the comments below here on YouTube. And I'll see you at the next one. Thank you all very much for being here. Great to see you all. And if you got questions,